practices for first-year students. This was at South Carolina, University of South Carolina in Columbia last October. And Sanaa and I have really enjoyed attending and presenting to everyone and sharing ideas with our colleagues. And this particular session is promoting student engagement, which is something we're all interested in, so welcome.
Okay, a second welcome from me. And before we embark on this engagement right, we'd like you to share with us some of your burning questions for this session. And Chris sent you an email to get your mobile phones, and many were wondering, what is that for? You will just use it to send a text message, so nothing complicated. So please get out your mobile phones, and what we want you to do is to text this code 25816 and your burning questions to the number in red. And you have here a screenshot from my mobile phone to make it clear.
This is pulled everywhere. You might have used this before.
Yes. So just send your question in a text message. Yes. No, it's not an international. We don't have a budget for it. It's okay if you leave a space or you write on the next line. See?
So what does 258?
It's a code.
That's our section.
That's like a code. Have you all copied the numbers?
Not yet. And what's the other? The 251H, we include that?
You should include it at the beginning of your message. 25816.
That should be my question.
Yes.
Can you help me? I don't text much. I'm not a student. I wrote my question, but I don't know how to put in the number.
We send it from my, I sent it. Do we send it to the beginning?
It's showing up. Yes.
Uh,
Students engaged in reading longer science
because
readings.
I always text.
How do you motivate, demotivate students? How to get disengaged?
You can always ask.
Disengaged.
I'll save it.
Okay, so
I'm going to leave this for Sanaa.
you
It
can
looks too
see,
tough.
I mean, this is a live audience polling tool that you can use in your classes, and I used it myself in my classes before. So your answers will start, it's called polleverywhere.com, and it's for free up to 40 members in the audience. You can use it for free. So we can see now some of your questions are appearing on the board. Yeah, Michelle and I will take a minute to go through them. Yeah, how can I get my students engaged in reading longer? Signed readings, how do you motivate them? Yeah, how can I create? Engaging classroom environments. How to get disengaged students to be interested? How can I ignite students' interest to read? And I made it anonymous, so we can do the same in your classes. In case you can choose whether you want to see who's gave which answer or to keep it anonymous.
And is that 25816 number, keeps it anonymous or?
No, I can show you later. I mean, there are options. You can choose also how to display these answers. They could be in in this form. They could be just a list, or they could be like a word cloud.
You can tell these were written by teachers because no mistakes, no abbreviations.
Yes, and it really engaged one of my students when I used this before. They were happy. This is the first time I allowed them to use the mobile in class.
So do I message first the 614 number?
Yes.
Okay.
The 614 is the number you send your message to. The 25816 is the code that you write at the top of your message. Anyways, I mean, if you're interested, I can show you later. I mean, how. So we hope that we will answer some of these burning questions together in this session.
Okay. And many of you have probably seen this visual, the passive and active learning triangle. In fact, some of us might have even used it in our classrooms. And this really answers the question for why are we trying to get our students engaged? The studies and research have shown that students who are involved in more active learning practices remember. They remember the lesson, very simple. And also students that are involved in active learning strategies are able to perform higher cognitive level activities such as analyzing, defining, creating, evaluating. And this is what we're all shooting for. So, okay.
So,
Let's get that one slide here.
yeah. Yes, technology.
Yeah, technology.
It's okay.
Is it at the end?
No, it's not good. Okay, control.
It's okay.
So to engage our students in active learning practices, we have to acknowledge the whole student. Remember when we talked in the first session about the whole student and the whole faculty? So we have to acknowledge them as a whole. So we have to engage them at different levels, like at the cognitive level, physical level, emotional and social levels as well. So, for example, we have to create activities and learning materials that are, to a certain extent, stimulating intellectually and challenging, but not too challenging. And it's also good to activate them physically in the classroom, and Michelle will talk to you about that in a while. And it's important to help them strengthen their sense of affiliation with the classroom, the community in the classroom, and the larger AUC community. If you remember, we talked about that in the second session, because students who feel connected to the community tend to learn better and to achieve better than those who don't. We have to give them choice whenever we can. When students feel that they have choice over how they can learn or how they can demonstrate that learning has taken place, they become more engaged with the learning.
Okay, and so we've given you the theory, the theoretical principles behind this. We want to talk about some more practical strategies. And one of those is constructing a learning environment that's welcoming to the students, that makes the students want to be there. And one of the ways that we can do that is to create a safe zone in our classrooms and in all of our learning spaces for our students. We want students to grow. And for them to grow, they have to feel a sense of safety. They have to be able to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes and to challenge old ways of thinking and to feel secure in making those challenges, and even willingness to try new things that they may not be perfect at. And we know how hard it is to get students to do that. I wanted to share one example that I've had in my RET 310 course, which is the Discourse and Power. They were very, very focused on the final research paper. And in fact, they were asking me about, okay, what do you want from us? What do you want us to do? Just tell us what you want of this paper. And you've probably had the same conversations with students. They just want you to map everything out for them. And so we spent a whole class session, and Ann was there, and we talked about the research paper as kind of a piece of academic discourse and how it serves certain socio-political ends, and it's part of a complex power relations, which was related to our discussions all semester long. And after we had that class session of deconstructing the research paper, they all felt, I'm free. I'm free. She doesn't care as long as I come up with something that's creative and igniting and interesting. And so I think they felt safe after that. So they produced some brilliant work, truly brilliant work that didn't necessarily veer too far from the constructs they had already been taught up to that point. But the whole point being is that they feel safe. They're going to do a lot of more spectacular things in that environment.
Okay, another strategy that we can use to create engaging learning environments for our students is music and video. We almost all the time we see our students with their earphones plugged to one of their technical devices, iPads, iPods, etc. And when I use, especially when I use videos in the classroom, these seem to almost instantly engage them. And so why not capitalize on their interest in video and music to help create engaging environments? And one of the type of videos that lend themselves to the classroom, to the type of classrooms we teach, because they're short, concentrated messages, are video commercials. I'm sure many of you have used commercials before in the classroom. And we would like to share with you one commercial that we thought is interesting and could be used to in our classes for different purposes. It's a FedEx commercial.
YouTube is very valuable. Students appreciate YouTube, and so do we. So do we. Yes.
Can I also?
We're going to show you this particular commercial. Foster some very creative, ideas for debates maybe for class, or brainstorming sessions about writing topics. The second video that we would like to show you is a funny one by the American comedian Don Macmillan.
That there's some things I hate about PowerPoint. I figure it's kind of my duty to point them out. There's common PowerPoint mistakes. Number one, people tend to go.
Have you seen this before?
How many of you have seen this one before? Okay, this is a video in a funny way about the things that we should avoid when we are creating PowerPoints. And so maybe instead of you explaining to the student the do's and do nots, you can make them watch it either in class, or if you're using the flipped classroom technique, you could make them watch it at home and then you discuss it in the classroom.
Oh, you're not going to show it?
Yeah, we're going to show
That there's some things I hate about PowerPoint. I figure it's kind of my duty to point them out. So here we go. There's common PowerPoint mistakes. Number one, people tend to put every word they were going to say on their PowerPoint slides. Although this eliminates the need to memorize your talk, ultimately this makes your slides crowded, wordy, and boring. You will lose your audience's attention before you even reach the bottom of your first slide. Please don't do that anymore, please. Number two, most common, many people do not run spell check. Big mistake. I think I'm even stupider than spelling errors. It's got a red line under it. Recheck the spelling. And finally, I hate this. Avoid excessive bullet pointing. Only bullet key points. guns, annoying presenters. Hence the bullet point. Bad color schemes, not good. Clashing background and front colors can lead to distraction, confusion, headache, nausea, vomiting, and loss of bladder control. I can't stay on that one too long. Here's something I've noticed. The number of PowerPoint slides you have in your talk, the less useful your talk actually is. Unfortunately, my presentation is right there. Also means this, people love to pack data into their presentation. They shove more and more data thinking it's better, but it's not. The more data you have, the harder it is to read your slide, and the effectiveness plummets. Now you can improve the effectiveness by adding some shading and some 3D effects and then some second order and third order effects, and then, I don't know, let's add some labels, that will help a lot. And that's pretty much every marketing slide I've ever seen right there. Then some like VP of marketing standing there going, it's real clear in Q4. What the hell are you talking about? Now, I'm into in animation. People become animators in PowerPoint. You can have things flying all over the place, and that can be good. If you're a visual learner, that will improve the effectiveness of your performance. But if you're easily distracted, more animations and people have no idea what you're talking about. They're just, wow, that's cool, wow. And there's regions here, by the way. There's the simple but effective region. There's the active but confusing, the effective and boring, the active and ineffective, the dull but static region, the busy but useless, the ADD only region, the useful but amusing, the stupid but confusing, the dull triangle, the hyper triangle, the sleepy square, the dizzying pentagon, and everything else I just called pointless motion. That slide right there took me an hour and a half to make right there. PowerPoint can just suck the life out of you to make it. I've also come up with this. It's a kind of a little science invention called font analysis. Basically, the font you choose says something about who you are as a person. There's a huge list of fonts, and you choose one, and that says something about you. So be careful the font you choose. For example, if you choose Courier New, which happens to be my favorite, you're probably organized in structure. If you choose Matisse, it means you're artistic. And if you choose Times New Roman, it means you're lazy, apathetic, and unimaginative, and you always use the default. A lot of Times New Roman people, welcome. We have some more. If you use freehand script, you're a horrible speller, so you try to hide it with a hard-to-read font. Very smart. If you use Gothic, it means you're very pale and you wear black. And if you choose Winged, it means you're a nerd and you have no life. In fact, if you know what those symbols mean, you will never have a date, trust me. Don't bother.
Okay. On his website, I mean, he has the longer version. It's the long one you can share with your students, and that has more tips about the things that they should not do on PowerPoint. For example, in my core class, instead of me explaining to them what not to do on a PowerPoint, I just gave them the link to watch at home. And then we discussed some of the points in class. And of course, music. I mean, we all know that we use music without even thinking to create desired moods. When we want to relax, or we want to create a romantic mood, or to energize when playing sports. And when we use it in class, I mean, it has also beneficial effects on the students. Actually, a number of studies, like both qualitative and quantitative, have shown that it can be used in class not only to energize them or to make them relax, but also to put them in certain mental, physical, and emotional states that are conducive to creativity, or to put them in a state of concentration. If you need them to concentrate on something, and something that I'm still reading about is called the alpha state. I don't know if some of you have heard about the alpha state. So there are also specific types of music that can put them in that mental state. And if you want, I can share with you later a list of specific musical pieces that you can use in the classroom to bring about those particular
just going to say those of us who got EFL degrees or linguistics degrees, I remember a teaching technique for language learning called suggestipedia that involved music and other aesthetic elements to help learning. Am I the only one who remembers suggestipedia?
And so for our next activity, which is a reflection, we will make you listen to some music as you reflect on the following question.
Okay, so we're just going to ask you to group yourselves, maybe just in little groups of 3, since we have kind of a small group, 3, 4. And maybe talk with each other how you construct engaging learning environments for your students. So what suggestions do you make? How do you construct engaging learning environments for your students? So what kind of strategies or techniques would you advise? Okay.
What practices are you already doing in your classrooms? Share them.
Just to be created by I just looked at your bio because I didn't know that. Now I know everything. Did you know that? That in Spanish, literature. I just told you, I looked at your bio this morning. I didn't know who SD was, and I thought, who the hell is that? You know, like another person. So, you studied in Oxford. So now you're back here for reading. Okay. Fill in the blanks. Yeah, all right.
Turn the habit out.
Hurting some of us for concentration. Not suggesting.
I think we were dancing and reflecting that, you know.
We were just trying to keep, and they were happy to.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It seems that
Play the happy song.
Yes, you should play that.
encourages people to talk more. Students.
I believe that. I believe that, yeah.
Think about also parties, social gatherings, you feel more encouraged to talk when the music is played.
You can hear it.
It's also
you think shared the most interesting ideas of engaging
What if it's
students?
only one person?
Okay, keep pointing. Okay. Point to the person who had the most interesting
Point at the.
People at a time.
Okay, so you seem to agree.
You're right, this was just an example of what you could do in your class. Certainly you need more time to make sure everybody had a chance to participate. And then they could, kind of.
That was
say
just
this
a
really-
quick example. Okay, so would you like to share the
Well,
larger
number
group?
one, if I'm doing this activity, I'm very careful about monitoring that everybody gets a chance to talk. Because this group, I was talking the whole time, and I apologize.
I'll try, and I can get help from my colleague, try to report her contribution, and one reason we all appointed her is because it was a very interesting one, and she gave examples, but it was mainly using music, but also art, specifically inspired by Van Gogh's work, and having the students even draw at one point. Help me if I miss. And I'll leave it to Melanie, Mike, and John to fill in the other parts.
Well, specific to music, she brought up things like Baroque music in terms of something about classical music, like the Mozart effect, and the studies that have been done related to how this music is very mathematical, when you can have in the background that actually helps the mind, stimulates the mind.
Particularly to have words because it's not distracting.
Yes.
We don't know about the research of ABBA, we were just sort of, just liked it.
No, and it's
There's
also-
no research on ABBA.
And the other thing about classical music is, unfortunately, in my experience at least, they don't listen to classical music, so they don't know it. It's very distracting for me. It's equally distracting for me because I know the music so well. It's as if it has words for me, but for them, they don't, so they're able to focus on what they're supposed to be doing as well.
So it's perfect.
Yes, it is. Except that I don't get any word though.
How about this group? Who did you point to? Pigeon please. Would you like to share some of your ideas?
I did a video assignment, but it's a little complicated, but I asked them to go out and collect data, testing out an idea that we don't really hear the stories that other people tell us except through our own stories. So they write a story as a group, and then they arrange and test the story on people, then they narrow it down to 3 or 4 stories that illustrate what the story is saying, and then present it to the class.
But they love that.
They do look
I didn't understand what.
They want me to do that all the time. That's the problem.
What purpose what were you after on this? I didn't quite get it.
It's in my core. The idea, we're working on this notion that what we think we know
Yeah.
is very much related to our prior experience and our beliefs, and that we interpret everything through that. So they're looking at the way the stories that we have in our heads cause us to selectively listen to other people's stories. We can't really take in the information unless we can relate it to it.
Unless we can relate it, but how would we?
So what did you?
So you have them,
So they wrote the story themselves. then the students just kind of completely missing the point, starting to go, something just like that happened to me, or
Which is just kind of confirming the theory, but, you know, they didn't.
yes, but asking them, you know, I haven't thought it through, but asking them to do any kind of qualitative research with people. Well, the other thing I did was ask them to come up with a consent form based on the IRB, so they were aware that they were invading people's privacy and people might have feelings about that. So it's sort of training them to do qualitative research, and they really like that one too.
Can I ask a question to elaborate on? So, I mean, I understood that you're using classical music, but how did you know that? Was there specific methodology used? So you were speaking about the introduction of classical music into the classroom environment. But did you think specifically in a particular way? Did you introduce something to the students, or how did you use it?
I usually use it when I start off, I usually use it in class in a stream of consciousness kind of writing. So I just say, okay, look, this is, you know, I know most of you don't listen to me. I'm going to share something that I particularly like. And I just want you to listen to the beginning and then just start writing whatever comes into your heads. And they start, of course, this also gives me a sample of their writing. Yeah, which is really why I start off with doing this. And then you can link it to, you know, you can share, you ask them who would like to share some of their stuff, because what usually comes out is very personal. And even in school, some of the things, I mean, you have to be prepared to really be reading something that can be absolutely shocking. Because, you know, and you say it's just between you and me, and you're welcome to share it if you would like. And they usually always do share, because if it is something also very serious, it comes out and they want, it's a cry for help, so you have to be aware of that one. But then, you know, when it goes off and I say, can I share some of you? And then you say that, and you say, well, look, it's the same user, it was the same input. But look, everybody has a different voice. And then I link it to voice, because voice is often, at least at school level, and I think also probably first year university level, it's one of the hardest things to explain. And this shows me voice is interpretation, is particular to one person, although the input was the same. You know, and that's also what we do with art. And I ask them to draw it at the end, of course, everybody's doing it their way. And that's also voice. And then you show, you know, here are two pieces of writing that talk about the same thing. Look at this treatment and look at this. This is voice. And so that's one of the ways. And then sometimes, sorry, just to finish. And sometimes I just put it on without telling them when they are writing. I just turn it on.
Another way you could use music is, for example, or video for the core, because of the guns, germs, and steel. We're talking about different cultures, and so it brings those communities to life in the classroom.
Very
So,
good idea.
yeah.
That's true.
Okay, so this group.
We talked about engaging struggling students who lack confidence, especially because sometimes they're really demotivated and they don't feel equal to other students in the class. And so we talked about giving them something meaningful to do that touches their personal lives and talking to them individually. And just trying to encourage them one at a time to make them feel that the teacher values their personal story and believes in their personal, strengths. And sometimes that helps them.
Actually,
Sanaa's gonna cover
that's
something
safe
very
environment as well.
We also talked about how the safe environment is threatened by their obsession with grades. That's always there. It's very high stakes. Environment for them. They can't afford to make mistakes sometimes, so they play it safe.
In their minds, they
Don't-
can't.
Yeah, in their minds, they think they shouldn't make, they want to write what you think they should write, not what they think they should write.
In fact, Sanaa's going to cover some of the points that you had mentioned as well. One of the practical strategies to engage students that came to us is obviously technology. We know how much students love to use technology. One of the visuals that we received was the Bloom's taxonomy for iPads, where you have the cognitive levels corresponding to particular apps that they can use. This is very easily accessible. You can just Google it and find it there. One that I thought was really interesting that Jalene and I were talking about the other day is the Wonder List. I don't know if you guys have used this. Isn't that fantastic? You can create up these like to-do lists or task lists, especially if you have groups working together, and they can all link in on this this particular app. And if you finished a task, or you can write status of the task, and it can share with the rest of the group. It's fantastic. I love this.
What do they put on? I mean, what do you ask them to put on this?
Well, it depends on whatever you want the list for. I mean, you could use it like with your husband and say, okay, this is what needs to be brought into the house in the next week. Okay, this is what I got, this is what you got, so we're not duplicating effort. Or you can have students use it with their friends, or use it in a class group assignment, for example. So they have X number of tasks that they have to achieve for a particular project, and they can map those out and assign them to certain people, and then write notes to each other when it's done, or status reports when it's done. It's called Wonderlist. Yeah, it's WUNDERLIST. And there's a bunch of others. I think your daughter was talking
Yes,
about.
I mean, I'm not a Mac person, but my daughter has a Mac laptop. She's 13, and she explained to me a number of them yesterday. I don't remember all of them, but why I'm saying this is they're already familiar with most of these apps. For example, for the creation, you have an iMovie, which is a movie maker. So if you're giving them an assignment in the form of a movie, they might use that. There are also Goodreader. I think that was the ebooks. Those were ebooks, if I remember properly. And you have also the equivalent of PowerPoints for Mac. Presentation link. Presentation link. That's they can use it to create presentations. They're like PowerPoint presentations. And then we can you can explore the others.
You can even set up particular assignments, revolving around particular applications that you want to engage them with. So this will make it more fun, especially too if they have a reading assignment. Why not make it digital?
Also brainstorming, creating, brainstorming. So
Can I ask you a
yes.
question? When you put this program together, were you thinking, about which ones of these techniques would work with which ones of our classes and our sequence?
Well, some of these
10-10
things.
or 10-20?
Well, some of these things we've utilized already in our courses. We hadn't really mapped out. Okay, this will be good for the outcomes of this course, and we didn't go that far with it, to be honest, John.
Right.
But that's kind of why we're inviting ideas. So if you guys have applications for these, we can share. And again, when we've used them, we'll share with you what we've used.
The applications are just neat ways to do things that you would normally do. They're not the purpose of the, like the Wonder List, you can write a checklist on your notebook or anything like that. But
I can see what that would
they
be
like
needed for
keeping
group
track
work,
of
yeah.
group work things on their phones.
And they really are involved with the phones, so sometimes if you can introduce the technological element, it kind of perks them up a bit. Even the poll
Yeah, they
everyone.
stop using it to text their friends, maybe. They use it for the right purpose.
So we were going to ask you, I know you're probably already utilizing different forms of technology to get students involved. And what we wanted to do right now is just have you show us your card, and we're going to get you to move around. I know you hate.
Show you the
So we're
card?
going to put all of our diamonds over here. So if you have a diamond, come over here. If you have a heart, we all have a heart, but if you're a heart, you can come right in here. If you're a spade, right in here. If you're a club, you can come right in here. So everybody up and find your group.
Spades.
Diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. Clubs over here.
How you doing?
Clubs over here. So just move around, meet some good people.
I'm a spade.
And a spade. Our hearts are right over here. Diamonds are over here.
Where spades and hearts together.
Where's our heart people? Diamond people? you to engage your students and come up with some great ideas for us, okay?
Let me get my notebook real quick. Here's something. You're not using that anymore? Used to. Started off using that course you used. Not anymore.
They're not marked.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Gotcha. No, I never have. I was interested in it early on because it was using But the movie, it's funny, Human Quest had used a lot more of these, those kinds of However, I've used, there's a phrase, I got this from Postman. You should try to go to this class. It's really different. He shows three of them. One of the videos hilarious was
Why do you, what kind of recordings do you want?
Monty
We do.
So it's a group. And
I don't want to do it because they don't want to use the service like the other students do.
okay, so he's guided to an office. And they begin having this argument. And, you know, and then he goes from there. Anyway, so I use that for definitely every argument since then. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The students are in the present, so that's the, you should think of their heat to university.
Each group reads one. Each group posts a summary. And the rest of the students post questions about the reading they have on it. Well, they do a summary of question answer session. They do it on the discussion. And then the kids respond.
I hate to interrupt the conversations, but I want to hear what you guys have said. We won't point this time, but I will just ask if you can come up with one idea from the group that you thought was interesting that you all use.
Without the summary, like they do the summary.
John, did,
Yeah, well, I'll mention one real quick. We had a group, a group, and we were like moving fast through things
Yes.
that we used.
okay.
But one that I got from Osman, this is not original, but this is one of the great things about doing this class observation thing. I always choose somebody I think would be interesting, to go visit and write up, and I chose Osman, and I'm telling you, you enter a new world. You go into his classes, and it's completely different from mine, but one of the things he showed them they're doing argument was Monty Python's
Oh, yeah.
clips on argument, and
Yeah.
they're just outrageous, and the students just love them. And so anybody who's trying to teach any techniques about argument, it's a wonderful way to get things started.
That's fantastic. Monty Python. Okay.
The argument clinic, right?
The argument.
Yes,
Yeah.
the argument.
Oh.
Yeah, this guy comes in to pay to have an argument.
Pay for an art. Yes.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And then he's abused.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. At least you cited your source.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
There's one site that you can make movies off of, and usually they're like cartoon movies that you can put in narration and music to.
They have an app for that too. Called Cartoon List or something. They have an app for that too. Yeah.
One of my students is using it. I have no idea what it was, but one of my students is using it. How to.
How to. That's great. So you don't even have to draw anymore. You can just
TOON. Yeah, good, because I had one, but I didn't know where I could get more, but that's great.
Did you guys have a great idea? How to use technology?
Well, using Kmart, anything.com, it worked okay with one class, not, it was a big fiasco with the other class, but I think, I told them this is a learning experience and that we wouldn't, abort it just because it didn't work out, so, CLT will help me with that.
Yeah. And there's, do you think it's engaged in more than
I
pen and
think
paper?
it absolutely, yeah, it did. And they could always come back to it and look at it, and for me also to monitor who did what, it's there, on the site.
That's great.
We didn't have if I could presume to speak for three of us, we didn't have a single brilliant idea, but three interesting, I think, observations individually. Mine was that I mainly solely use technology for classroom management, and this presentation is being workshop, making me think I gotta branch out. And Shireen, that's our country. So he talked about how her PLI students surprisingly resist technology. You think that they would be comfortable with it, but they aren't always comfortable. For example, they don't like recording their voices, which is interesting. And Iman said she often shows videos, but it's important to prepare the students, not just show it, but stop it at times and make sure they're engaged, because otherwise it just can become a sleep fest or a distraction.
Or give them some kind of questions or
Right.
something to think about while they're. That's great. That's great. Excellent ideas, everybody. And I know all of you. We're using technology to the level. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Glad to have you. You're gonna miss the bingo. The bingo game, which is coming up. We were gonna talk about. On that note, Tim's leaving. We were going to talk about another strategy, which was physical engagement. As you've seen, we tried to mimic what we should do with students as well, to get them moving in the classroom, which will also engage them. Or the way we set up the classroom, as you know, we have the little groups here instead of having everyone in rows. Because even research has been done on the organization of the classroom and how that impacts students' ability to engage. And take it outside. A lot of our colleagues are taking students on campus tours, taking them on field trips, going on the campus, finding something to do where they're not just sitting there in the class the entire time, right? They're actually engaging physically, and so they're going to be learning more. So here's a particular activity that you may utilize. It's called bingo. You might have played this game at some point in your life. The object of the game is to get 5 signatures in a row, vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. And so you'll just have to get up and walk around with a few remaining people and try to get them to sign off on one of your boxes. Okay?
And when the first person finishes one line, the game stops.
They call out bingo and the game stops, okay?
Stop.
Go for it. You just walk around and you have everybody sign, like you have a pencil. I'll sign for you. You want to get 5 in a row, either horizontally or vertically. It's best to get something that's going to utilize this, right?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Different people, yeah.
Have you done CBO?
Another?
I do love that.
Is this yours, Mike? Is this yours?
Sorry.
Okay, can you please? Look, don't make us panic. All right. If you can sign that, then like on the video, you know, I mean, yeah, that's no, I didn't quite get it. I couldn't get it. You already signed one. You already signed one. Well, could is that all? All right, we got didn't say anything.
So you can see the applications of this strategy just to get students moving around, to get their brain working again, okay?
And Shuru just suggested you can use it at the beginning of the semester as an icebreaker.
Yes. Get to know each other.
It's a variation of find someone who
Find someone who have to find. Yes. You can have something theme related too. You can create your own bingo box and have
about
something
the reading.
And no prizes?
We'll have our eternal gratitude.
Feed everybody.
Just feed you, yes. No, but
That's never fed.
I can invite you to the international day.
Day,
Tomorrow.
yes.
Bring in some food, yes.
free tamale sandwich or something? That was community day.
No, other things. Other discovery, yes, for some students. Okay, another strategy you can use is related. Remember when I talked about the whole students? So we have to target their metacognition. Students who take the time to reflect on their thinking and on the way they learn achieve better learning outcomes and are more engaged. So I want to share you one possible technique that you can use at the beginning of the class, which is called RSQC2, which stands for Recall, Summarize, Question, Comment, and Connect. So what you can do at the beginning of the class, you can give them slips of paper or note cards. You can even do it online if you're in a computer lab. So you can ask them first, give them a minute or two to recall the most important things they learned the previous session. Ask them to write them down in phrases or short, in words or short phrases. And when the 2 minutes are over, ask them to summarize those points in one meaningful sentence that really grasps the main importance of the thing they learned from that previous session. The third step is to make them write down a question or two that remained unanswered from the previous class. Next, ask them to comment on their experience during that class. They could be questions such as what they enjoyed the most or what they enjoyed the least, what they found most or least interesting or useful. And it could be also something like, during most of the class last time I felt, so also to reflect on their feelings. When they've spent again a couple of minutes doing that, move to the last point, which is inviting them to make connections. Let them connect the points they have written in steps 1 and 2 with the main goal of the course. And when they finish, collect those papers. If you have, and read them as you're collecting them. You can quickly skim through them. So it depends on your time. If you have time, you can answer some of them immediately during that session. If not, make sure you communicate to them when, like give them a time when you would be tackling those questions. So this is just one possible suggestion. Okay?
In real-world assessment, we might think of assessment in terms of grade, and Guy was just mentioning students are really grade-focused, and they're really engaged when a grade is on the line. But we can actually utilize assessment to get them more interested, but we have to make sure that we're letting them in on the assessment. Whatever it is that we're doing has some real consequences for them in terms of it's achieving something, okay? And I'll give you an example of that in a moment, but also making sure that the assessment relates to some kind of outcome that you're attempting to achieve. And many of the techniques that we've provided for assessment or that you might have read or gone to conference or seen in a PD session, don't just adopt it outright, because it may not work for your students. You have to see what their needs are in terms of the assessment. And finally, close the feedback loop, which means whatever it is, make sure they get conversation with you at the end about what they have achieved, okay? And just to give you a quick example, I sent my students to Community Day. I said, go to Community Day, and I want you to write, and I gave them questions that I wanted them to answer in relation to that attendance, so I had a goal for them. And then they wrote something up, and then I gave them feedback on it. I wrote it. It was not for a grade. It was simply a conversation that we had in the classroom and in writing about what was the meaning of this, what did it achieve its goals, that sort of thing. And it was motivating them to do something, even though there was not a grade attached to it. They felt there was something real that we're doing here.
And building relationships with your students and helping them build relationships with their peers is very important. And I like the example that Rada shared a while ago about how when students feel that you care about their personal stories and who they are and that you appreciate their individual challenges, they feel more engaged. So this is one of the quotes, touching quotes that Rob Sherfield shared with us in the presentation in the Institute. The most hardened student mourns when he or she knows you care about him or her, and I find this to be very, very true. So the first thing at the beginning of the semester is get to know them, get to really know them. And one example you could do, instead of the icebreakers in class, or in addition to the icebreakers in class, is to have them create a digital biography. So what they do is they create a video about who they are at home, and they post it, maybe on Blackboard or on Google site or whatever site you are using, and ask them to respond to at least 2 of their peers. We have an example, but we can maybe send it to you or post it on the PD website for you to watch. And it's very important that you set very clear expectations. Students have to know what is it exactly that they're learning, why they are learning it, and how are they going to be tested, and also what does quality work look like. And I think most of us are already doing that by sharing the course outlines with them, sharing the rubrics. Amani Shimi does a wonderful example of creating the rubric with them on the board in class. Maintain positive reinforcement. As teachers, we sometimes tend to feel that it's a sort of bribe, they're supposed to do that, it's their work, they have to do it. Why should we praise them for that? Praise them, give them positive feedback on their essays, reinforce good learning attitudes or behaviors or strategies. And finally, we know in rhetoric, when we talk about ethos, that's when people like someone, trust someone, think that someone is an ethical person, they tend to believe you, they want to listen to you, they want to learn from you. And the same applies to our students. So build trust, show respect to them, and also foster an atmosphere of integrity.
I know you're rushing to get this through, but the clear expectations thing, I had a student ask me to post some examples of, quote-unquote successful 10-20 papers, online papers. Yeah. And I've done that before, and they slavishly reproduce almost like I've given them the words, and then they substitute like their life. And then when I don't do that, then on my student evaluations at the end of the term, they, one way or another, usually say, I never knew what the doctor wanted. Yes. And the rubric alone, so I think it's like expectations that they understand.
It's just
is maybe the finish of that.
Sometimes we think they know what we expect, but actually they don't. So just we have to make sure that we're on the same line. They understand what they're supposed to learn, how they're supposed to do it.
Can I address that, John? What I do is I show them one, but I won't post it. I'll say, here it is, look, and I'll go through it.
Or show it in class.
And I show it in class. And I say, see, this is where they've addressed the audience. This is how they've done the ethos. You see, this and that. And I go through and look, this
But I do get it. I don't need it, but, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about, and I told them I'm using it for another class.
The last suggestion, practical strategy, relates to something you're probably already doing. I know Sanaa and I are already doing this, that of collaborative learning. Students really care when other people are involved in whatever it is. So whether you're creating collaborative learning groups in an online space or in the classroom or outside the classroom, it's going to work better for students. Having study buddies, when you have a research buddy, when you have a reading buddy, when you have someone who's working with you on a task, brainstorming sessions inside and virtual spaces, peer response groups, we already talked about the peer mark. Problem-solving teams, we thought this was pretty interesting. Giving them a problem and having them address it, and each of the group members takes a role or a position. Group assignments where they're producing a paper, they're producing a presentation together. Although it's, has its problems too, it does keep them involved and interested. And discussion and debate groups, they love that. Anything that they can do to argue about stuff. Okay, so the last task, did you come with it?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we want you to do is to use the 8th grade 3 paper and the markers I've given you and reflect in your group and then write either one word, phrase, or sentence that best captures student engagement. You may also use illustrations, and when you finish, please post them on the pin board.
I have some extra provided to you. The color that best suits the mood of the kid.
One word, phrase, or sentence.